There we go. All right, friends, Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos. All right, it is a hot Friday night out there. No air conditioning at my house. Decided to go out on Monday, so and it won't be fixed till Wednesday. I felt when I was talking to the one air conditioning place that actually returned my call out of the 6 that I called, I felt they were saying, well, why didn't you call us earlier? And we could have, well, because the air conditioner did not tell me it was going to stop working earlier. So, yeah. One thing that I hate is the heat. The other thing I hate is the heat. So, but we'll get it fixed. And it's nice and cool here. So if you see me sleeping tonight, just leave me alone because it's hot at the house. But it is a Friday night, and it is Shabbat, and it is a beautiful Friday night, even a little bit warm. So let's start out. Oh, Melanie, come on up, and Ben Schlicht. And yeah, we're gonna have the candles lit, and we'll start welcoming Shabbat properly with Kabbalat Shabbat.
Read something before I do that.
Yeah, either one of these or these.
Okay. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Let's see if we can. There you go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'haylik ner shel Shabbat.
Thank you. All right, let's continue with another reading. Responsive reading on page 9 at the top. Page 9 at the top. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted.
Stand in wonder before the mystery of creation.
There are days when we act as if we care nothing for the rights of others. So embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. All right, let's continue welcoming Shabbat with song. Page 20, we'll begin with Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi, Prat Kala, B'nei Shabbat Nikabila. Lecha Dodi, Li Prat Kala, B'nei Shabbat Nikabila. Shamo v'zachor b'dibor echad, Yishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'litila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela, Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mikor habracha, Merosh mikedem nehesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tchila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabela, Mikdash melech yimelucha, Umitzei mitoch afecha, Rav lahak Imhecha b'cha, v'hu yachamoh l'alaichem la, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela, Itnarim yafar kumi, Livshi b'dei tifartech ami, Al yad b'nishai beit halachmi, Korba el nafshi gehala, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela. Hitorari, Kiva Ore Kumi Ori, Shir Daveri, Kavod Adonai Alai Nidla, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Chala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela, Lo Tevoshi, Lo Tikomi, Mahatish Tochachi Matehemi, Bach Yechesu, Aniyehe Ami, Benihib Netahir Altila, Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela, Vahayu L'Shimsa Shohosaich, Beracha Kuko Mevalaich, Yasis Alaich Elohaich, Ki Himsos Chatan Al-Kala, Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela, Yamin Usmol Tifrotzi, V'et Adonai Ta'ariksi, Al Yadish Ben Partzi, V'nismecha V'nagila, Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela, Boi V'shalom Ateret Bala, Gaham B'simcha U'sohola, Toch Emunei Am Segula, Boi Chala, Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela. Let's turn the page and we'll read some verses from Psalm 92, the psalm designated for Shabbat. At the outdented paragraph, let's read together. A song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. With a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together, you have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. Tzadik katamar yifrach, ke'erez baldanon yiskeh shetulim. Bebeit Adonai, bechatzrot Eloheinu, Yahafrihu. O Jinuvun Beseva, Deshenim Bera'ananim, Yiyu, Lehagi, Ki Ashar Adonai, Suri, Velo Avatavo. And let's turn to page 24. Just turn the page, and we'll welcome the angels who come to spend Shabbat with us. Top of 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharei, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boechem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu L'Shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Teitchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. All right, we have welcomed Shabbat. The Shabbat bride is with us. Let's turn to page 146 and rise for Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Let's read together on page 147, the first bracha before the Shema. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish. But your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you, and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai, Amariv Agavim. The second blessing, the second bracha before Shema. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadita. Alkein Adonai Eloheinu, V'shochneinu uvkumeinu, Nasiach bechukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, U'v'mitzvotecha, Le'olam va'ed. Ki heim chayinu v'yorech yameinu yameinu uvahem nehegeh yomam v'layla v'ahabat techal tasim imenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta ha'et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol lavcha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol me'otecha. V'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlektecha b'derech uv'shoftecha uvkumecha Ukshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'visharecha, leman tizkeruhu v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'tem kedoshim le'loechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Page 151. Let's read responsively. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that oneness is not our grasp, is imperfection neither will bound.
Before our eyes, there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness.
There is evil enough to break the heart. There is good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
When we
When
grant
we claim for ourselves.
Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
During God's present redeems time and event, we celebrate this power that reigns for freedom.
Top of 152. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nohurati lot, osef ele, malchutecha ra'u banecha, bokeyam lifnei Moshe, zeili anu v'yamru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'nemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov u'ga'alo mi'ad chazak mimenu baruch atah Adonai ga'al Yisrael. Page 150 at the top, the first two lines of Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, v'ha'amidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, v'ha'amidenu shomreinu l'chaim. And let's read together the paragraph in English. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, Aholei Sukkot Shalom Aleinu. V'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Page 154 at the top, verses from the book of Exodus, reminding us of the importance of Shabbat. Vishamru, page 154. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. La'asod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam b'rit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. La'asod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam b'rit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael B'nei Yisrael, oti li'olam, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. La'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam b'rit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, Asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. La'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam b'rit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. La'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam b'rit olam. We are at the central prayer of the evening service, the Amidah, also known as the Tefillah, the prayer, and during the weekdays, it's known as Shmona Esrei, the 18 benedictions, but on Shabbat there are only 7, but that's okay. we're going to chant 155, 156, and 157 together, and then we'll go silently as we finish the prayer. And the prayer ends on 165, and you can offer you can continue the prayer in Hebrew. You can read the English translation, or you can offer up your own meditative prayer at that time. But we'll begin together on 155, and I'll ask everyone, please rise. Adonai sifatai tifkach uvi'ati tilatecha. Adonai sifatai tifkach uvi'ati tilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. El Hagadol, Hagibor, Andorah, El Elyon, Romer Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei HaKol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Goel B'nei Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magin, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magin Avraham v'Yisrael Sarah, Atah Gibor Yolam Adonai, Mechayei Meitim Atarav L'Hoshia, Morid Hatahal, Mechakel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayei Meitim B'Rachamim Rabim, Sohomech Noflim V'Rofech Mohonim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afa, Michamocha Ba'agivurum, Umidom Mehelach, Melech Memid, Umechayem, Umatzmiach Yeshua, B'neman Ata L'chayot Neitim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei Ametim. It's amazing. Everybody finishes the Amidah just when I finish it. I've never seen that before. I like that. The power I have. Either that or you're tremendously slow readers. The Amidah continues on 160. Let's read together in English. Middle of 160. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may we all live in such a way that this day fulfill its promise.
Baruch
Baruch
atah
atah Adonai,
Adonai,
Mekadesh HaShabbat. A little bit of Hoda'ah on 163, a little bit of thanksgiving this evening. Let's read responsibly at the top. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks.
Praise.
For the desire in us, which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful.
For life and nature, harmony and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow, all praise to the source of being.
All right, we'll close out our Amidah as tradition with a prayer for peace. And in the evening, it is Shalom Rav. 164. Shalom Rav, O Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, O Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rahav O Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav O Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov me'inecha livorech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rahav Ad Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav Ad Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Praise are you, Adonai, who blesses your people, Israel, with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. We jump ahead to page 253 for one of our prayers for healing. This one is the Mishaberach. And if you have anyone who needs a little bit of extra healing this Shabbat, please keep them in your thoughts and close to your heart as we prepare for Mishaberach. Mishaberach Avoteinu Mikor HaBracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mikor HaBracha La'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Pages 258 and 259, prayers for our community. And Mr. President, how about the prayer for our congregation?
Source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us. Love of Torah, devotion and prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our members bring fulfillment and joy.
Baruch atah Adonai, Sheltecha Levatcha B'yira Na'avod. David, how about the prayer for our country?
O guardian of life and liberty, may your nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Let us say, Amen.
Amen. Shalom, Shalom, Yerushalayim, Yishlayu Havayich.
Shalom.
Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you prosper. Avinu Shabashmaim, Tzur Yisrael, V'Goalo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reishit Tzmichat Ulatenu. Hagen Aleha V'Yevrach Chastecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shlomecha, Ushlach Orcha V'Amitecha, L'Rasheha, Sareha V'Yotzeha, V'Takneim Be'etzah Tova Milfanecha, V'Natata Shalom Ba'aretz, V'Simchat Olam Yoshveha, V'Namar Amen. Dennis, how about on 259, the prayer for the state of Israel in English? 259 at the bottom.
O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the drawing of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it in the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen.
Amen. July 14th is a special day in France. It's Bastille Day. And believe it or not, we actually have somebody who is close to France in our congregation. And I'll tell you what, it's not me, but it's our good friend Nick. And he has a prayer, and we have a translation of it in the back. So Elizabeth, if you just reach behind you, right there's a translation of it. And we're going to ask Nick to come on up and read the prayer that they read in France. Synagogues in France read today, and probably all this Shabbos. So come on up. He says he speaks French. I don't know. I've only heard a little bit.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bonsoir.
Well, it's my country's national day, and this is a prayer for the country like we do ourselves here. And it was introduced into the liturgy in 1808 under Napoleon I when he created the French consistory, which governs France to this day. But it's been modified since, obviously, with different empires and republics. And this is the present version of the Fifth Republic. And thank you for allowing me to do this. Dieu éternel, créateur et maître de l'univers, la force et la puissance t'appartiennent. Par toi seul, tout s'élève et tout s'affermit. Bénis et protège la République française et le peuple français. Amen.
Amen.
Éclaire ceux qui président aux destinées de l'État afin qu'ils fassent régner dans notre pays la paix et la justice. Amen.
Amen.
Que la France vive heureuse et prospère, qu'elle soit forte et grande par l'union et la concorde et conserve son rang glorieux au sein des nations.
Amen.
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 Que la France, berceau des droits de l'homme, défende en tout lieu et en tout temps le droit et la liberté. Amen.
Amen.
Que l'Éternel accorde sa protection et sa bénédiction à nos forces de l'ordre et à nos soldats qui s'engagent dans notre pays et partout dans le monde pour défendre la France et ses valeurs. Les forces morales, le courage et la ténacité qui les animent sont notre honneur. Amen.
Amen.
Accueille favorablement nos vœux, que les paroles de nos lèvres et les sentiments de notre cœur trouvent grâce devant toi. Ô Éternel, notre Créateur et notre Libérateur. Amen.
Amen.
Do you want to read the translation? This one's in English, I think.
I'll translate it. Eternal God, creator and master of the universe, strength and power are yours. By you alone, everything rises and is reinforced. Bless and protect the French Republic and its people.
Amen.
Enlighten those who preside over the destiny of the state, so that peace and justice rule in our country.
Amen.
May France be happy and prosperous, strong and mighty through unity and harmony, and keep its glorious place among the nations.
Amen.
May France, the cradle of the rights of man, defend everywhere and for all time human rights and liberty. May the Eternal One grant his protection and blessing to our law enforcement officers, to our soldiers in our country and worldwide who defend France and its values. Their moral strength, courage, and resilience are our badge of honor. Grant us our wishes that the words from our lips and the feelings of our heart find grace before you, Eternal One, our Creator and Liberator.
Amen.
Well done. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
The first Bastille Day, it was 1789. 1789, a long time ago. All right, friends, Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
We are closing out the book of Bamidbar this week. We have a double portion that closes out the fourth book of our Torah. And, it's when the fourth book closes, that means the fifth book is on the horizon, and the high holidays are about 9 weeks away. The first portion this week is Matot. And in keeping with a lot of the themes that have been running through the last 6 or 7 parshiot, we get laws regarding speech again, but it's when we invoke God's name in a promise. Right? It's called a vow or an oath. And the Torah is very specific that whatever comes out of our mouths, especially if we call God as a character witness, we have to fulfill. Right? And, in America, we take how we speak kind of cavalierly, right? So we always say, I swear to God, X. Well, the moment you say, I swear to God, you are now on the hook for that vow. That's why we have Yom Kippur. That's why we have Kol Nidre, because we often don't think before we open our mouths, and then we use God as a character, right? We say, because of God, God will make sure that I do this, or because God is so wonderful, and God, God's my guarantor. I swear to God, I'll never step foot in that synagogue again. And then the next time they have a kiddush, you're at the front line. Well, you are now on the hook for a vow that was taken in vain, right? It's one of the big 10, thou shalt not swear falsely by God's name. So the Torah is very, very specific that when we use God as a guarantor, we have to fulfill what we say. There's a big discussion about women and are they allowed to make oaths? If the woman is a minor or if she is married, it's either her husband or her father that says, yes, she has to fulfill the vow, or no, she can't fulfill it. But if she's a widow or a divorcee, whatever she swears is binding. And that brings in a lot of discussion in the Talmud about what kind of oaths are really meant to be taken seriously and what might just be said. Nobody really means it, but they're still on the hook. Even if they don't really mean it, they're still on the hook for bringing God into a discussion that probably didn't require God to be named. We have a war against Midian, and Moshe sends them out and says to destroy all towns, get the spoils, kill every man, every male child, and every non-virgin woman. Those are the marching orders to Bnei Yisrael. The men return, and Moshe is furious. They brought the women back and the children and took the women as wives. And so Moshe says, no, see, this is not what I said. You destroyed the cities, you brought back the spoils, but you're to kill the women who are non-virgins and all the male children. So he sends them back out to kill the male children and the women that they had brought back with them. The Reubenites and the Gadites about this time, 2 of the tribes, decide that they want to remain on the east side of the Jordan it was better grazing land for their cattle. So they go to Moshe and say, hey, would you mind if we took our appointed land from the east side of the Jordan River? Well, Moshe gets a little angry. He flies off the handle because what he hears, he doesn't really hear what they're asking. He hears he thinks they're saying that they are going to abandon the people, that they don't want to cross the river and fight for the land, but they would rather stay on the other side and not get involved in the fight. And so he yells at them and calls them, he accuses them of abandoning their people, of being false brothers. And they say, no, that's not what we said. In fact, we will be the shock troops. We will be the first ones to go in and lead the attack. And those of us who survive, when that is over, we want our land on the other side of the Jordan. It was never our intent to abandon our brothers in the war. We just feel that the land is better for our cattle on this side. We're still going to fight. And Moshe agrees with that after he's had a chance to calm down. The final portion is Maseh, and Moshe recounts the 40 years of journeys, instructs the children of Israel on the conquering of the land, how to define its borders, and the best way to divide it. We get what are called 6 cities of refuge, Are Miklat, and these are places where someone who is accused of manslaughter goes to await justice. In the Torah, the taking of life is forbidden regardless of the circumstances. Murder carries the death penalty, but manslaughter does not. And manslaughter is defined by accidental killing of a human being. So the classic case is you're in the back and you're chopping wood and the axe handle flies off and kills the person who's walking behind you. You now have to get to one of the 6 cities of refuge, and there you will be tried. And basically what they want to find out is, was it murder? Was it true manslaughter? And they'll bring the witnesses in and say, yeah, it was truly an accident. The 2 people had no beef. There was no arguing. It was a terrible accident. And the person had no premeditation. It was not premeditated murder. And so that person, the person who did the killing, the accidental killing, has to stay in that city of refuge. He's allowed to bring his family. Some decisions later that he's allowed to bring his teachers, but he has to remain there until the death of the high priest. If he steps outside the city, the person's family, the person whom he has killed, their family can execute him. They can go, not execute him, that's the wrong word. They can take their revenge upon him. But while he remains in that city, no one can touch him. And after the death of the high priest, he's a free man again. And then it ends, the book of Bamidbar ends with an amendment of regarding the daughters of Zelophehad. Last week we learned that they petitioned Moshe and he said that yes, he and God said that yes, they can inherit land because their father had no son and it was unfair for them not to be able to inherit. And the tribes of Manasseh and Joseph complained, go figure, you try to do something nice and people complain. And they said it's not fair because if they inherit the land and they marry outside of their tribe, then they can take the land with them. And that might mean that their tribe will lose land and another tribe will gain land. And then everybody says, okay, so if you marry inside the tribe, you keep the land. If you marry outside, you forfeit the land. And all 5 of the sisters married within their tribe. So there was no real issue. The book of Bamidbar closes with 8 new mitzvot in Parshat Matot, 1 positive and 1 negative, and in Maseh, 2 positive and 4 negative, for a grand total of 8 new mitzvot this week. And that is your Torah portion in a nutshell. I was going to talk about something else this week, but then yesterday I learned and I read that the shooter in the Tree of Life, the Tree of Life synagogue, that was where 11 people were murdered and 6 were wounded, in 2018, the jury came back and said that this murderer, and I'm not going to mention his name because my custom is these people should be forgotten. And every time we mention their name, we give them notoriety. And if their name is mentioned on TV or whatever, they should just perish and be forgotten. So the shooter is eligible for the death penalty. It was October 17th in 2018. It was a Shabbat when the shooting occurred. And I remember it because Jeffrey Cohen, who was here for Tu B'Shvat, he was visiting my synagogue in Brooklyn. And as we were sitting in my office chatting, there was a knock on the door. And one of the borough council members and a state senator who was from Brooklyn were there to extend their condolences. And that was the first we heard about what had happened. Jeffrey knew several of the people who were involved coming from Pittsburgh. On June 16th of this year, he was found guilty on all 63 felony counts. And on the 13th, yesterday, after less than 2 hours of deliberation, they came back with a verdict that he is eligible for the death penalty, and then that will be the next phase of the trial. And the reason I decided to talk about this tonight is that lots of people are going to be asking, well, what do Jews think about the death penalty? Should they string them up? Should they do this? Should they do that? And according to the Torah, there are 36 eligible crimes that carry the death penalty. The top three are the three sins that are basically unforgivable: murder, adultery, and rape, and idolatry. So we're dealing with a murder case here. In the times of the rabbis, 2,000 years ago and a little bit before, we had what was called the Sanhedrin. And that was our Supreme Court. And it was made up of, depending on which Sanhedrin we're talking about, there was a smaller Sanhedrin, a Sanhedrin Ketana, that had 23 judges. And they decided capital cases, but only if the Sanhedrin Gedolah, the court of 71, was seated and hearing cases as well. You note the number 23 and 71, there will never be an even vote. But to get the death penalty, you couldn't have 12 and 11. You had to have 13 in favor and 10 against in the smaller Sanhedrin. And if they couldn't figure it out there, then it would get bumped up to the court of 71. And in temple times, the court of 71 sat in the chamber of hewn stone. And that was basically our Supreme Court. In the book of Genesis, we read, after Cain has killed Hevel, whoever sheds human blood, by human hands will his blood be shed, for in the divine image God created humanity. And that's where we get the permission to carry out a death penalty. We know that it happened in the Bible. Zelophehad was found to be collecting sticks on Shabbat, and then he was taken out and stoned for violating Shabbat. Throughout the Tanakh, throughout the Bible, we see a number of cases in which people are executed for various crimes against people. So when we say that Jews or Judaism favor or has the death penalty, we have to qualify that. Because by the time it got to the rabbis, they were trying to write it out of existence. They couldn't just stop doing it because, of course, people were still murdering, people were still committing adultery and raping people, people were still committing idolatry. But they felt uncomfortable with the idea. Now, to draw a parallel between the system that's in place in America, which is highly problematic, highly racist, highly disorganized when it comes to capital cases, ours looks so much better in terms of what the rabbis devised, because they weren't upset at the possibility of taking human life, but they didn't want to. there's something in the rabbinical writings when you read them and you study them that they're not in a hurry to condemn someone to death. Now, there's an entire tractate in our Talmud, Sanhedrin, that deals with the Supreme Court and the cases for the 23 and the Court of 71, and the death penalty is extremely, not extremely, it is very detailed in what has to happen and what goes on. And so just to let you know, you need at least 2 witnesses. If you have 1 witness, nope. They don't care if it's the chief rabbi of Hotzenplotz. If that's the only witness to a capital crime, you have no capital crime. You need 2 witnesses who have to warn the individual that what they're doing is a sin or a capital crime, and you have to tell them that you're seeing it. And it has to be done within seconds. It can't be you see somebody kill someone, and then 2 days later you go up and say, we saw you kill them, and we should have warned you. That's not how it goes. You have to be witnessing the crime as it's taking place, and in the time it takes you to say, Shalom and good day, my rabbi, you have to say to the person who's committing the crime, you know you're committing a crime, it carries the death penalty, and we are witnessing it. And the person has to hear it and answer back to you, yes, I know it's a capital crime, yes, I'm doing it anyway, and now I'm going to start. The now I'm going to start isn't that part. He just starts to kill whomever or whatever. So there are guardrails in place. You have to warn them. There have to be 2 of you. Both of the witnesses have to be able to speak clearly, and the person who's perpetrating the crime has to be able to hear. So that's the first set of rules regarding that. After the fact, right? So Dennis and I are walking down the street, and we see somebody walking away after committing a murder. The person's given a chance to repent because we didn't witness the murder. We're just assuming that because he was walking away from the body carrying an axe, that maybe he had something to do with the fact that the person was killed by an axe. But he's given an opportunity to repent. He's not given the death penalty, but if he commits this crime again, or any other crime, he's given the death penalty. So you now see that the rabbis are looking for ways of getting around it. So we have the 2 witnesses. They did their warning. The accused has answered that he had heard the warning and everything. And so now we have a baked in. We have the court that comes and listens. They go and they examine the witnesses separately. Right? So if Dennis and I witness a crime, the Sanhedrin would call me in, and then they would call Dennis in. And our testimony has to be almost exact. If there's even a small difference, now, the example that I'm going to give you is not just a small difference, but if Dennis and I differ on the eye color of the perpetrator, it's not considered good testimony and it's not accepted. The whole testimony goes, right? We have to be entirely sure. The court wants to be entirely sure we have the right guy. And it goes to the court of 23. And it needs a 13-10 vote. If the court is unanimous, right, because we like courts that are unanimous, right, that means they prove their case. In Judaism, if you have a unanimous court of 23, the case is thrown out. Because it's in the eyes of the rabbis, somebody didn't do their job. Somebody is suspect. Somebody wasn't taking it seriously. Somebody didn't examine hard enough, didn't do whatever. If everybody was convinced, there's a problem. After the Second Temple is destroyed, the death penalty pretty much vanishes from Judaism. Most realistically, because we were no longer in our own land. And other countries find it disagreeable when immigrants and start carrying out death penalties in land that doesn't belong to them. So it was pretty much forgotten and written off as, yeah, we used to do it. And there were a number of rabbis who famously say that there's a Mishnah tomorrow that we're going to study during tomorrow's services out of Makot, in which one rabbi says if a Sanhedrin executes one person in 70 years, one person in 70 years, it's a bloodthirsty court. And then there were two rabbis who said that if we were on the Sanhedrin, nobody would have ever been executed because we would have examined the witnesses so intensely that we would have been able to pull apart their testimony, and it would not have been a capital case. And then Rabban Gamliel said, well, if you had done that, there'd be more bloodshed in Israel because the killers would know they could get away with it. And so it's not a cut and dried case with this individual who now has, the jury has to come up with whether or not they're going to, or I don't know how it works, whether it's a jury that does it or that the judge hears the testimony and then pronounces the sentence. I don't know how it's going to work. But I do know, because I've already had a number of people reach out to me and say, so what's the Jewish take on the death penalty? Well, it's complex. It's not cut and dried. And the only time it really was cut and dried was in biblical times. By the times we had the temples, the rabbis were looking for ways to find other means to punish people, even though the Torah did say there are capital crimes. One of the options, right, if the Sanhedrin of 2023 did not have jurisdiction, meaning it was unable to, they didn't have the two witnesses or there were other problems, what they could do is they could lock the person in a cupola, in a small room, and feed them very, very little bread and water until they died. So there was a death penalty, even if it wasn't direct. They could starve the person to death if they had no other recourse. At best, the rabbis were ambivalent. But be prepared. After 1948, we have the State of Israel. And when they found Eichmann, there was a huge, huge debate of what to do with him. And to this day, Eichmann is the only criminal executed by the State of Israel in the modern period. And there was a lot of, and I've read accounts of the people talking about it. Maybe some of you remember hearing radio broadcasts or news broadcasts or reading in the papers what was going on. It was not an easy decision. And then after Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated, the question for his assassin became, do we execute him as well? And they decided not to. And so, again, there was a lot of hand-wringing on both sides. But the American jury that's going to decide, or the judge who's going to decide the fate of this individual is going to have to make a very difficult decision. There are Jews out there who are already saying, no, we can't execute him, not the death penalty. No, the death penalty is unfair. The death penalty is racist. The death penalty should not be carried out, right? The famous statement, if one, rather let 7,000 criminals go free than execute one innocent man. We've heard that, we know that. But what do you do when there is no shadow of a doubt? The man pulled the trigger. The witnesses were there. Before they could warn him, he had already killed people. What do we do with something like that? For the record, I am anti-death penalty, except for one case, Timothy McVeigh. I wish we could bring him back and execute him again. I was in Oklahoma when he blew up the Murrah Federal Building. I had students who lost family members, husbands, wives, parents, who died at that time. And so I'm glad I'm not involved with this case. But you're going to get questions. I just want you all to be able to at least answer with a little bit of expertise and not just say it's cut and dried. And tomorrow, if you want to explore this a little bit with us, I'll be looking at one of the Mishnayot, one of the rabbinic teachings that forms the basis for some of the discussion that comes in Masechet Sanhedrin in the Talmud. But everybody wants to know right now, what do the Jews think should be done with this individual? I don't know. I don't know. Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos. Mari,
Kiddush.
it's time for Kiddush. Yes, it is.
Oy, oy, oy.
What are you, a chassid all of a sudden? I don't like that. Yeah, we should become chassidim here. All right? Very joyful, lots of singing, even dancing, believe it or not. Believe it or not. All right. A little bit of Kiddush for Friday night. Oops. Kiddush for Friday night. Please rise. There you are. Vayer vahivoker yom hashishi, vayachulu hashamayim v'haaretz, b'chol tzivam, vayachal Elohim bayom hashvi, melachto asher asa, vayishbot bayom hashvi, mikol melachto asher asa, vayavarech Elohim et yom hashvi, vayikadesh oto, kivo Shabbat, Mikol melachto asher bara Elohim la'asot. Savri, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza banu, b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu. Zikaron Maaseh Bereshit, Ki hu Yom Techila Lamikra'ei Kodesh, Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim. Ki banu v'acharta, v'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim. V'shabbat kodshecha, v'ahava uvratzon, inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen.
A good week for the grape juice. All right, we'll start closing out our service. Page 282, Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach Adonai, l'atei gdula li'otzeh reshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, v'lo salanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol avonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishpachim modim, Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Notei Shamayim V'Yoser Haaretz, Umoshe V'Yikaro B'Shamayim B'Imah, Ushlinataso, B'Gol Hei Meromi, Hu Eloheinu Ehud, Emet Malkeinu Efesulato, Takatu V'Torato, V'yadata Hayom V'Hashemota, Elevavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, Bashamayim Limaho, V'Haaretz, Mikachateno. Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam amen. V'nehemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz v'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo Echad. You may be seated. We are in the Shloshim period for John Lentz and Fred Weisberg. This week we observed the following yahrzeits: Sarah Gersman, Jack Steinberg's grandmother; Mike Shrinsky, Sherry Solochek's uncle; Gilbert Weisberg, Liz Weisberg's father; Bill Hager, Dennis Hamill's former son-in-law, father of two of his grandchildren; Irene Strauss Horowitz, related to Harold Strauss; Ida Kaplan, Etta Steinberg's aunt; Isidore Fox, Ronnie Fox Glazer's father; Morris Kuntz, related to Linda Stern and Richard Kuntz; Maury Ritter, David's brother, Charles's son; Jack Steinberg, husband of Etta, father of Mark, Brian, Paul, Mark, and Adam; Rose Chertow, Bruce's mother; Pearl Schoenfeld Lewis, Walter Sr.'s wife; Reva Jean Smith Meadows, daughter of Orrin and Imogene Smith, and sister of James; Gail Wise, sister of Bernice Stern; Judith Ann Jeffer Smith, wife of Larry Orrin Smith and sister-in-law of James; Milton Penn, Ina Hamill's father; Mayor Slifkin, Nancy Sher Billig's father; Abraham Angel, Harry's brother; Ida Kolker, mother of Joe, Herb, and Lou; Jessie Katz, wife of Andy Katz, mother of Jerry and Myron; Rose Miller, mother of Debbie Schnitt; Minna Poland, wife of Mayor, Barbara and Ron's mother, Joan Weisberg's aunt; Eleanor Lewis, Gail Gottlieb's mother, grandmother of Jody, Linda, and Lori; Owen Tom Stafford, son of Orvis and Miriam Virginia, and brother of Francis. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May their memories be a blessing to us all, and may they all rest in peace.
Amen, amen.
A mourner's Kaddish is found on page 294. V'yit Gadol, V'yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, Ba'al, V'rach Yirutei, V'yamlik Malchutei, B'chayechon, V'yomechon, V'chayech, B'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agalah, V'zman Karviv. Amen.
Amen.
Yehei Shmei Rabbah, V'rach, L'olam, L'omer Maya. Yitvarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitkahar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shmei, Kusha, Buriku. Le'elam, Mikol, Birchata, B'shirata, Tushpachata, V'nechamata, V'amiram, V'alma, V'imru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah, V'im Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru. Amen. Oseh Shalom Yisrael, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru.
Amen.
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 You may be seated. All right, before we get to our announcements, we have, it's a bit late in the summer, but better late than never, the June and July birthdays and anniversaries. And so in June, we had Alan Kaplan, Scott Murphy, Daniel Cabell, Francis Scher Bloch, Suzanne Smith, Janice Levine, Joe Horn, Paul Mayer, Susie Brodoff, Stacy M. Solachek Beckman, William E. Block, Jared Kolker, and Rose Marie Ritter. Jared's birthday is coming up, and Rose's is on 7/26. So if you can remember that now, give her a call. Anniversaries were Paul and Lynn Mayer, Mr. and Mrs. Mark Miller, Mr. and Mrs. Mark Solachek. I love how formal we are here. Scott and Toby Murphy, the Kleins, the Smiths, Rabbi and Tori Witcher, the Neufelds, Jessica Pressman and Jay Fox. Oh, theirs is coming up soon, and that's at number 10. That's number 10. That's a decade right there. And look at this. Oh, it's Mr. and Mrs. Hoyt Glazer. I think it's Mr. and Mrs. Melanie Glazer. I think it should be that way. And they are the only ones here, so Hoyt and Melanie, come on up. I know, it's horrible. Because we have, we have a blessing, which is always good. Well, can I tell them the number?
Sure, I don't care.
Do you remember the number?
I do.
Okay. Well, I know Melanie does.
It's 23.
23, exactly, 23.
23, like the chromosome.
It's a prime number. It's a prime number. It's a good number. And so we have a special Misha Berach for them and some sweets.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I can have two.
you may have one.
Thank you.
You may have one. Would you like two? Maybe you need two. Maybe how about a bottle of scotch? You mean you need scotch to be happy? No. That's not what I was saying.
That's what I meant.
No. But 23, that's a great number. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless Hoyt and Melanie, who are here today with gratitude for all the blessings their 23 years together have afforded them. May the Kadosh Baruch Hu protect and deliver them. May they continue to enjoy God's blessings in the new song of their years to come, so that they may always live in joy and gladness, in peace and companionship. Let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
Mazal tov.
Thank you.
Melanie, you can sit down. We're going to keep Hoyt up here for the announcements.
Okay.
All right. So tomorrow we have our service, 10 a.m. service. I'd love to see at least another one of you there tomorrow, maybe two. Can we go for two tomorrow? Do I see two? Do I hear three? Let's get a few more people there tomorrow, so I don't have to be there just with just the usual suspects. What do you
Just
think?
with you, yeah. Let's get some new suspects.
If you come tomorrow, I'll share the candy bar too, unless you're diabetic, in which case we'll just pretend that we don't have a problem. Okay, so Sunday we have a service at 9 a.m. and we'll do that. The Yiddish choir at 7 on Wednesday. And then we'll be back to having a service here. I want to remind folks that if you do want to help out with the Jewish Cultural Festival, please let me know. I'd like to get some input on that. Everyone's input is welcome, as well as on the committees. Again, I think it's really important that we try to, make sure that people know that we're here in this community and that we're trying to be active and welcoming to all, because we are. All right. Thank
Well
you.
done.
Thanks for the candy bar.
You're welcome. I have just a quick announcement. On on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock, we're having our first summer class, and it's an introduction to Hebrew. So if you know Hebrew, but you want to brush up on it, or if you don't know Hebrew and want to learn it, that's on Sunday afternoon, and that's at 1. And then at 2 o'clock, we're having a tour or an introduction to the Jewish Bible, to the Tanakh. And I got to tell you, friends, I wish I could take that class because the material that's going to be presented, I learned something while putting the class together. And I always like to learn. So please join us. The classes are live. And if you can't make it in person because of distance or other not infirmity, but it's just not easy for you to make it, you can join on Zoom, but everybody else has to come. We want people in the building. And so Hebrew at 1, Tanakh at 2, Scotch at 3, I don't know. Soda at 3, I don't know. We'll do something in terms of maybe a little food or a little light refreshment. We'll see. But that's Sunday, and it's going to continue for the next 10 Sundays, both classes. So hope to see you. All right, let us close out our evening service, this Shabbat service, on page 321, Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa B'chepso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nivra V'Yacharei Kiklot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nohra V'hu Haya V'hu Hoveh V'hu Yeh B'tifara V'hu Echad V'ein Sheni L'hamshir Lo L'hachbira B'li Reishit B'li Tachlit V'lo Ha'oz V'ha'misra V'hu Eli V'chai Go'ali V'tzur Hebli B'yehitzara V'hu Nisi Umanosli Menat Kosi B'yomekra B'yahadu Avhid Ruchi V'yetishan V'yahira V'imruchi V'yati Adonai li v'lo ira. Wow, looks like a lot of people want to say hello today. So let us see. Mark Rosen says, Shabbat Shalom. It's a pleasure to join everyone in welcoming the Sabbath this Friday in beautiful Huntington, West Virginia. And that's Mark and Diane. Well, thank you, Mark. Someday maybe you'll come to services and be able to welcome us, the Shabbos, in person.
You're much taller in person, Rabbi.
They always say that. David Johnson, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, David. Donna Wilson. Had a message. Oh, she's later. There's Mom. Shabbat Shalom to all from Rabbi's Mom and Cliff. Thank you, Mom and Cliff. In hot and humid Pennsylvania. Yeah. Wishing all a peaceful weekend and a good week ahead. CGJANWHBIM. I'm not even going to try that one. Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos. Thank you. Donna Wilson. There you are. Shabbat Shalom to everyone now. Feeling blessed because I survived another knee replacement. Well, Mazal Tov. And start running, right? Wonderful. And Hazan, Europe, Temple Emmanuel, Tucson. I've paid respect here with Jews 2017 to 2022. Okay. Well, thank you. All right, friends, lots going on. Please join us here in person. We look forward to seeing you. I want to wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom, a good Shabbos, and please be careful out there.
Good Shabbos, Rabbi.